Hi, everybody. Welcome to Early Childhood Social Studies Methods for this week. As I indicated in last week's video, there is no new material for this week, no new chapters. So we're starting to work on your lesson plans and your practical application of the material that we have covered so far this semester. So what you have due this week is the lesson plan for pre-K. And as you can see here, we're going through lesson plans for K1, 2, 3, a thematic unit. You also have your practicum hours that are due, 10 hours in a classroom in a setting looking at social studies components. Please let me know if you need help with that. I know you guys are working in early childhood settings, so you can use those settings to do your observations, to just do more of a reflection on what's happening in your work, in your settings. Okay, so lesson plan pre-K. If you click on that, of course, you're going to create a lesson plan. I believe both of you have worked on lesson plans before, but for this assignment lesson plan, create a social studies lesson plan for students in preschool. Whatever topic you want to do, standard you want to address, that's totally up to you. Okay, so use the blank lesson plan template that we use for a variety or almost all of our lesson plans, and this is it here, right? And you can see as you go through, it's got it laid out here. What's the title of your plan, the grade, how long, what's the topic that you're focusing on, what are the standards, what are some goals that you're going to do, objectives you're going to use to reach these standards, your procedures, what is the step-by-step process you're going to do to complete the activity or complete the lesson. Then we bump down to the materials. What materials are you going to use during this lesson? Maybe it's just one or two things. The anticipatory set or the lead-in, what is something you're going to do to start the lesson, to introduce it, to get the kids' attention, to get them excited on it. Independent practice, are you doing something where students are engaging in an activity or doing something on their own to understand the topic, the concept, or to demonstrate mastery on it, which might connect to the performance assessment. What are you doing to assess the students to make sure that they have understood or that they do understand the topic, or if they don't, that you know that they don't. And so this might be an observation. You're going to observe the students participating in an activity. It might be something as simple whether they do it or they don't do it, or it might be a little a project that they do or something like that. Just depends upon what you're teaching. Adaptation and modification, right? What do you have to do if you have students that are have a disability, for example? How are you going to change it? How are you going to modify it for them so that they can complete it? Extensions, on the other hand, then would be what is something you would do for a student that is very advanced in this topic. Okay, so maybe you have them do a little bit of extra, or maybe you have them build something rather than write about it or whatever it might be. Excuse me. Do you have connections to other subjects? With social studies, typically you could make connections to language arts, or you can make connections to math or whatever it might be. But sometimes there's not, which is fine. But what are some possible connections? If there aren't any, then tell me. And then lastly, what is the instructional technology component? What are you using? What technology are you using for this assignment to help the students? And then the last part is the lesson plan rubric. So this is how I go through grading it, right? If you look at these, you know exactly what I'm looking for on that rubric. Okay, so let's minimize this here. Where are you going to find your standards, right? So in the resources tab, maybe you have an idea already. You have a standard that you do maybe in your work. You have some options here. So we have the early learning guidelines, the South Dakota early learning guidelines. Right? We have the Ochetti-Shakoi essential understandings and standards that you could potentially use. We have South Dakota social studies standards for K through 3, right? So for this one here, I've pulled up the early learning guidelines. I click on that, and this is what comes up, okay? And so let me go back up. South Dakota Early Learning Guidelines. Okay, we'll use these for example. So I go here to the content, right here, social studies, page 68. Okay, so these are the guidelines for our preschool and below kids. Okay, as I get to page 68, let me find this here, 56, and almost there. 67 right here. So study South Dakota Early Learning Guidelines for Social Studies. Here it's going to tell you exactly the standards that we're looking for. So we have 5 standards to look at here: family and cultures, community civics, history, geography, places, and economics. Okay, so as you get into them, we're just going to look here at this one: families and cultures, right? So the benchmarks and the standard, the big broad standard: through their exploration, play, and social interaction, children demonstrate an understanding of their self, their families, and of cultures. Okay, so that's a big broad one. You don't use that standard per se, right? But here we look at the benchmarks. Okay, so by the end of the preschool years, most children will. So you pick one of these standards to work on. Okay. Identify themselves as individuals and as belonging to a family, or describe what a family is and roles that family members play, or et cetera, et cetera. So you pick one of these standards, okay, and then that's the one you're going to focus on. Okay. Now here it gives you some examples, right, of things that you can help reach this benchmark of the standard, right? Give children opportunities to role play in their dramatic play area. Okay, so this might be something that you can do, a center that you can set up, and you can create this into a lesson plan. Okay, how what kind of role play, what kind of would they be doing in the dramatic play area? Maybe you're talking about families. Maybe you're talking about differences between families and differences between people and those types of things. If you have different clothing within that dramatic play area. Okay, so again, totally up to you which standard you pick, which topic you pick, etc. But look through them, use these if you want. There are other standards that you could potentially use, because there's not necessarily a universal set of standards for preschool. So yeah, it's up to you on that, but this is a good guide. This is a good outline for that. You might find something online in regards to a lesson plan, and you might modify that to fit into our lesson plan format here with this. Okay, so let me know if you have questions. Let me know if you need help. All the information is right there for you to plug that into our lesson plan format, and for you to complete that by the 13th. Let me go back here. Yep, April 13th. Yep, that is due. So so you got some time to work on that. Again, the kindergarten and first grade lesson plan is the same thing. Second and third grade lesson plan is the same thing, and so on and so forth. Okay, and your final is the thematic unit here. Okay? If you take a look at that, thematic unit, social studies, 4 lesson plans at the age grade level of your choice, using the standards. So civics, history, geography, tons of it. Okay, so 4 lesson plans. This doesn't necessarily mean 4 days. Thematic unit might take longer, right? So if you might have a lesson plan that covers 2 or 3 days, type thing. So think of a length, think of a couple weeks minimum in order for you to think of this thematic unit. Okay, that's a ways off, but I just want to let you know about that, and we'll remind you again next week as well. If you need help with this lesson plan, please reach out and let me know. And otherwise, we will talk to you next week.